Hi, friends and colleagues in the Faculty of Arts. I was going to write something for this month's newsletter on disability disclosure. Then I thought I would talk instead because it's just a bit different. So the reason I want to talk about disability disclosure is because we're trying to ensure that at every level of the organisation we have adequate representation of people with health impairments. And I think one of the issues is not just about barriers to progression, but also about ensuring that our disclosure rates are giving us an accurate picture of the makeup of our kind of staff community. So I thought it might be helpful to just kind of reiterate some of the key principles around the definition of disability and why it's really important to let us know if any of those apply to you. So if you have recently filled out your census, you may have noticed that they didn't actually mention the word disability at all. The first question they asked was, do you have any health conditions or impairments that have lasted 12 months or more, or might be expected to last 12 months or more? And then the next page asked about whether those health impairments had an adverse impact on your day-to-day activities. So a couple of things that I took issue with in the census. Firstly, day-to-day activities is defined as getting up, eating, dressing yourself, washing yourself. The guidance attached to the Equality Act gives us leeway to, contextualise our day-to-day activities to a limited extent. So what I mean by that is, as somebody who works on a computer a lot of the day, I have to sit for long periods of time. Do I have any health conditions that make that difficult? As a lecturer in pre-COVID times, you maybe had to stand for long periods of time. Would that cause you any difficulties? Students, for example, need to be able to write quickly and process information quickly in lectures or in exams. And there could be any number of impairments that would make that challenging. So those day-to-day activities can, to an extent, be contextualised. The other thing I took issue with in the census is that it went on to say, if once you've taken your medication or you've got the relevant equipment that you need, if then your health impairment, your disability doesn't then have an impact because you've mitigated with medication or equipment, then don't tick the box. Now, actually, the law says the exact opposite. The definition of disability is if you didn't have your medication, if you didn't have that equipment, if you didn't have those accommodations, would that condition be disabling for you in your day-to-day context? So to give an example, I'm very open about the fact that I have generalised anxiety disorder and I've been on medication for most of my adult life, and I function, perfectly well most of the time. Take that medication away and that's going to be a really different story. So that would still enable me to tick that box and say, yes, actually I do have a condition which has the potential to disable me without relevant mitigations. So that's the definition of disability. The other thing that I would say is most people who are entitled to tick that box, if you like, don't relate to the language of disability at all. So disability covers things like neurodiversity, dyslexia, dyspraxia, autism spectrum conditions, lots of hidden disabilities, being deaf, for example, which, people from those communities, rightly, I would say, see that that's their identity. It's who they are. It's not a deficit. It's part of what makes them unique and gives them a different dimension of skills and perspectives to bring to any space of work or study. So it's really hard to feel that you have to put yourself in a deficit box for something that is part of who you are. And there's not really a way around that. Just to say that I think it's our responsibility to create a culture of understanding of the strengths that diversity brings. What was the other thing I wanted to mention? Yes, the other thing I wanted to mention is that the definition of disability also covers something that you've had in the past but no longer have. So if you have had a disabling condition, a long-term health impairment that meets all the criteria that I've talked about already, but you got better, you recovered, you can still say, yes, actually, I'm afforded protection under the Act. That might seem a bit strange, and you might go to, tick a box and feel a bit disingenuous, really, saying, yeah, I class as disabled, when actually I'm completely fine. To give you an example around mental health, let's say you 8 years ago had really severe mental health difficulties that required hospitalisation and a period of time off work. Your employer or your prospective employer can still potentially discriminate against you, making a recruitment decision or a promotion decision based on your disability history. So I don't think they're a safe bet, because last time they were under pressure, they just fell to bits. So let's give that job to the other person. So, and the same for any physical impairment. You remember when their arthritis flared up a few years back? Wow, that was terrible. They were off work for months. It's really important that we capture people who are vulnerable or have been vulnerable or might be vulnerable at any time in the future to discrimination on the grounds of having had a long-term health impairment. If you've got any questions, lou.silver@nottingham.ac.uk. I'm always happy to chat about disability. It's one of my specialist areas that I'm super interested in. So yeah, get in touch. Bye.